We are back once again with Erika Brown, the publisher and editor of The Cricket, coming to us from her office in downtown Manchester by the Sea. Good morning, Erika.
Good morning, Kory.
It's never a quiet week in Manchester or Essex, and there's a lot going on right now. Where to begin? I guess let's start with the big news regarding water rates.
Yeah, the water rates. If you remember correctly, every year the Board of Selectmen, which acts as the water commissioners, right? They set the water rates every year, and they do it every year for July 1st, I think it is, right? That's when they set the rates for the next fiscal year for all residents of Manchester. And one thing that happened in June was that the Water Resources Protection Task Force, which had been working for 18 months, finished its work, disbanded technically after 18 months of work, and they gave a report. We talked a lot about that as they were going through what they were doing. One of the things that they recommended was the adoption of a new water rate. It would simplify the water rate structure from, I think, 6 tiers to 4, but it would also kind of have this, it's called a conservation water rate structure, which is designed to reward the people at the very bottom. And their rates would have gone down a little bit, the people who use very little water, if any. But then the people at the tippy top, those top users, which we've talked a lot about, would hockey stick, right? So they recommended them, and they got initial pushback. And I think we talked about that at the time. There was a guy, Phil First, who lives not that it matters, but he lives on Blossom Lane. I guess we're so trained to say, who the resident is and where they live. But anyway, this one resident actually got up and articulated something that a lot of people articulated, which is he has a lot of kids, he has a large family, and they're all into sports, and he has a large house. So he's got like the perfect storm of water consumption. And he basically said, listen, this is like a double tax. This is not fair, because it penalizes large households, households with large families, and doesn't really reward the efficiency of a household, which is an interesting kind of argument. And that it took me a while to really understand that argument, frankly, but I thought it was very interesting. Well, he came back actually later this past week with a petition that in 2 days he got 110 signatures against this water rate. Behind the scenes, there've been a lot of static about the idea of this new thing. The most compelling thing that happened last week at the hearing, and I'll tell you what happened, they basically decided to kick the can up the road. But they kicked the can up in a road in a way that made me wonder, are they even going to do it? So they're going to decide in January. So they kicked the can up the road. So it's not changing. But one of the most compelling things that happened is this other resident who lives on the other side of town is Mr. First, Jay Bothwick, who happens to be, he's involved with the town, or has been involved with the town officially. He was on the finance committee for years before my time. And now he's the president of the community group, the Citizens Initiative for Manchester Affordable Housing, otherwise known as CIMA. He's the president of it, and he's an attorney. And he wrote in a letter, and he basically said, listen, I'm opposed to this. There's a better way to meet the community's needs. And he said that Manchester, he actually argued successfully that Manchester does not have a water supply problem. It has plenty of water. And in fact, Manchester uses less water today, he wrote, than they did 30 years ago, which is a very interesting statistic. But anyway, so in the end, they basically kind of, without a confidence on the underlying premise of the entire structure, right? They couldn't really push it through in the face of unpopularity. The truth is, and even Chuck Dam said, we really should be doing this. We should be going in this direction because A, it's the right thing to do. B, it's very, very, perverted to be using treated drinking water that you can drink, that we have all paid for, that's drinkable for your lawn, right? So there's definitely some education. That's basically what they chalked it up to. Let's educate, let's really maybe do smart water, smart meters, so you know what your usage is, all that stuff. So they basically kicked it down the can down the road. They're going to revisit in January. But I have to say, the whole exercise has been really illuminating, I think, in terms of understanding what is the water consumption in this town, what should it be, because Manchester's way far above everybody else, and we've talked a lot about that. But the question is, how do you do it? So that was interesting. So
And that is a candidate for Kory's Manchester Story of the Year. I'm going to keep my eye on that one.
water,
Okay.
water, water.
Yeah. Something else going on now is what is going on with the community center?
Oh, the Manchester Community Center. The Manchester Community Center is that building. You know where it is? You've been in it many times, probably, Kory, right? It's right next to the train station.
Yeah.
Did you know that it used to be an MBTA train cargo building, off building?
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, it's when they used to take cargo that wasn't getting picked up immediately back in the day of the golden age, the gilded age,
Mm,
when they'd have big summer resident, luggage and package and stuff for your house.
yeah.
They would store it there. It was a storage facility. But anyway, so for 47 years, it has been where it's been, behind, and it's technically part of a condominium association, which is, where Bravo Pizza is, and the old framing shop, and there's some businesses in there. That's called Harbors Point. And they're technically part of Harbors Point, even though they don't, and get this, they own their own building, but they don't own the land on it. It's one of those, right? So they have to deal with the condo association. The condo association, after 47 years, and this is getting a tremendous, it's like red meat on Facebook, but the condo association has basically declined to renew their lease, right? So after 47 years, they have to get out. So they're like, oh my God, the community center, which is true. I mean, this is where like AA meetings take place, and yoga classes, and the Seaside Garden Club meets. This is
Right.
like a true community center. It's not like, big money. So they're getting kicked out. It's really hard to deal with. But the truth is, this has been a long time in coming. It has been hard for the association, which has essentially subsidized them for a very long time. They didn't pay rent at all for decades, no rent. And now they've been paying for years a nominal rent, and I mean a nominal amount of rent. So what I don't want to get lost is the fact that this condo association has been very good to them for a very long time, really good, and deserves credit for that. And now I hope they work it out. I mean, I really do. I don't know if it's a matter of them working out with this particular, group, this association. I don't know if they're going to be able to stay where they are. And I don't want to hint that they will, but they are definitely in talks. They're hopeful that they can find a new format, a new home, a new partnership, a new something that will enable them to continue, because they really have been incredible. The Wobblin' Goblin, these events are all things that come from the community center. They're really fused with the PTO, so a lot of kids programs happen out of there. They have, community-wide cleanup with the kids. It's really too bad, but ongoing story, that's what happened.
Yeah, interesting. So Erika, so they own the building though? The community center owns the building. Can they sell?
No, they can't. I think that's in the covenant. I would imagine it is. I mean, maybe technically they could move the building somewhere else, but it does show you here, I'll give you a great example. It shows you the vulnerability when you don't own everything and you're not in control. If you want to control your destiny, you have to own the real estate. That's the truth. So Hastings House, which is an amazing community center over in Beverly Farms, guess what? It's in an old structure. They own their own digs. The American Legion Hall, they own their own digs. The Masonic Hall, they own their own digs. The Boy Scouts, the Scout Troop House, which is that field house, is just gorgeous in Manchester. It's really old, it's amazing. They own their real estate. So that is sort of the vulnerability, because you can't look at somebody like the condo association for the community center and say, you're not charitable by giving us something for free. Well, they're not a charity. It's like going to somebody's private house and saying, I want to use, can I use your garage for a couple of years? And they go, okay, yeah. And they're nice. And they say, yeah, you can use it for free. And then afterwards you say, I got to get out. This is terrible. They're kicking me out. And you're like, you kind of forget that in the beginning, it was a nice thing that they were doing for you. Do you know what I mean? So I can see both sides. That's all I'm saying.
Oh yeah, it's delicate for sure.
It's delicate, and I feel badly for everybody. I really hope they come to a good solution, and I hope they do it without all this misinformation. There's a tremendous amount of misinformation going on Facebook, which is very standard. But it's too bad. I hope that, we all live together. Let's live together, shall we?
And how about a quick follow-up on the decision about the rotunda Tux Point?
Oh yeah, we talked about this last week, so I don't want to spend too much time on it, but I'll tell you this. This is how I opened up the article, which kind of gave me a chuckle, which was, 2 years it's kind of like a tattoo. A tattoo cost $30 to put on, perhaps, and it costs $3,000 to take off. So you better be careful. So that's the same concept that I was thinking of when I was like thinking about the rotunda. It took them 2 years to think about what to do. And literally in this meeting last week in the Board of Selectmen, it took them 2 minutes to bring up the topic, ask for comment, and vote on it.
Really? Yeah.
2 years to 2 minutes. And I think it's because they realized, not unlike the water rates, that there was just no appetite to do the unpopular thing. And so guess what? The rotunda will not be a gazebo on the land. It will be exactly where it is. It's staying exactly where it is, and they're going to raise it up 5 feet to 19 feet, which is required by the new federal standards. It's going to take a long time to do, not because they can't do it quickly, but because the permitting is so hard. So it's going to be 2025. It still has to go to town meeting to get approved. It's 2.25 million. It's going to go to town meeting in the spring, but they're very hopeful that they're going to be able to get grants to cover nearly all of it. So that could be amazing, right? So that'll make it a lot easier. And it's going to be raised and put on encased steel pilings, which means it's going to be around for a very, very, very long time. And by the way, Cindy Reza, Cindy Reza, the unofficial mayor of Tux Point, I quoted her in the piece, and she actually, I got to say, she is such a funny person. She really is. She's a character. And anybody who knows that knows I'm telling the truth, right? But she spoke to me about it in such a sweet way. She said, listen, I grew up in this town and I grew up crabbing down there and I grew up jumping off of the rotunda. My childhood, that is my childhood with my siblings. And by the way, her father's in well into his 90s, I think almost 100. What do you think? Oh, no. Her father-in-law. Sorry, yes, her father-in-law. And that's right, her father-in-law. And sorry, I'm talking to somebody off. Clearly. But anyway.
That's the voice in your head, Erika.
It's all good. Yeah. Susan Anthony's right next to me. She's our office manager and she knows everybody. Anyway, so her father grew up here. I mean, it was like multi-generation. And she said, listen, you don't understand that for poor kids of all types, this is a waterfront park that it's a wonderland that they can come down to and go crabbing. And it's like and she said, it's like a wow. It's our wow. And it's true. You go down to Tux Point, you see that gazebo. I mean, the gazebo, the rotunda. And
almost.
Wow. Yeah. So there you go. That's it. That's what happened.
Okay. Good stuff as always, Erika. No more laughs this week because next week we're talking school budget.
Oh my God. Dun, 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 dun. Yes, we are.
All right. We'll see you then.
Bye.
Interested in a sponsorship? Email sponsor@1623studios.org to learn more.